Hello. We have 45 seconds, so.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
You should probably try to work.
You should probably get your butt in gear. Hello, Greg.
What? Hi.
15 seconds.
Yes, y'all. It is DCTF Live, which on Wikipedia is described as an internet show. My name is Greg Tepper. I'm the managing editor of Dave Campbell's Texas Football and TexasFootball.com.
Is that a Wikipedia edit you yourself made?
So I'll get to that in a moment. Let me introduce you first. Okay. I am sitting at one desk here in the DCTF Live studios. Is another guy, and that is Max Thompson. Hey, Max.
Hey, man, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. So it is Monday, February 22nd, 2016, the year of our Southwest Conference Loving Lord, 2016. Episode number 78. 78. Let me come up with one real quick. 78. The number of games that Brad Arnsberg appeared in for the Texas Rangers. You mentioned the Wikipedia article. I will tell you in a moment we're going to be running through some headlines, including is Charlie Strong in hot water? The answer is maybe.
Maybe.
And then a little bit later we are going to be discussing our matchup Monday, which pits the Austin Reagan Bulldogs of 1970 against the Tyler Rose, John Tyler 1973. We'll get on all that in a little bit. Yeah, so I had to go and edit Wikipedia because it was woefully out of date.
Okay.
It still listed your predecessors as the being on staff here, people who do not work here anymore, being on staff here, as well as we hadn't updated the cover of the 2016 Texas Football Rising, which you can still get in places that sell magazines.
Yeah.
Please support print media because otherwise we die. And yeah, so I had to run through Wikipedia and edit all that. So now it's all up to date. You can go check it out. And it even includes DCTF Live. I did mention that.
Yeah.
So I have been dieting lately.
Hey, it's all the rage.
It's something.
I'm about to start one.
I've got to get svelte. I've got to stay svelte for television because the camera does add 10 pounds.
Sure.
And so when you're like 10 pounds overweight, that means you look 40 pounds overweight.
Sure.
That's how that works.
Sure.
So I have to stay svelte and try to...
Do you have a target goal loss
No,
weight?
I mean, not really. It's just kind of... there's a number. I like to stay... I'm 6'1", a little under 6'1".
Okay.
And so I like to stay somewhere between about 180 and 200. I like to give myself a big range so that...
Sure.
Because the most I've ever been is 239.
Yeah.
I was 239, and then I went on a big, crazy diet and lost a bunch of weight. Killed Fat Greg is what I like to think of. I murdered him.
Yes.
And the lowest I ever got was 183.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, at 183, I looked at myself, I'm like, ugh. You look kind of scrawny.
Okay.
So I try to avoid that. But I have been dieting, but my wife's birthday was recently, and as you may know, if frequent listeners of DCTF Live, subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, remember that we went to Mexico for her.
Yes.
And I'm not dieting on vacation. What, am I, a monster?
No one does that.
No. So I pretty much took a week off. Let me tell you, taking a week off of the diet, you really you go back to your favorite things. And you're all right.
Oh, yeah.
It reboots on Monday, so you might as well get your money's worth. So I have been eating terribly recently. I had chicken and waffles for brunch yesterday. It was great.
Mine starts this week, so this weekend was beer, tacos, and cookies.
Yeah.
Just piles of them.
Yeah. That's the struggle is real.
It is very real.
The struggle is real. Well, especially because you and I are both married, and you and I both have wives who are tiny.
Yes, very tiny.
Your wife is taller than my wife.
Yes.
But equally tiny.
Equally tiny.
They're just both very tiny people.
Yeah.
So for us, we don't want to be these big slobs alongside these svelte women. No.
My whole problem, and I'm sure you go through this too with both your wife and your parents, no one's ever like, oh, you look a little unhealthy.
No.
You're a little big. They're like, no, you look healthy. You look fine.
No, I want people to be honest. I want them to be like, geez, Greg.
Yeah.
Lay off the sweets, porker. That's all I want.
No one will ever do it.
But nobody's ever honest. We're always like, I'm always honest with my friends. Except when it comes to, the most important thing, their health.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's oh, no, I'm totally honest with them.
Not great.
Come on, friends.
Yeah.
Let me have it. We are DCTF Live. We're here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And we have a website, TexasFootball.com. So we are going to, as we do every Monday afternoon, I guess. Monday right at afternoon. It's morning on the West Coast.
True. All the people watching in L.A.
All the people watching in L.A. We are going to go through our headlines, call them three and out. The first headline is kind of a bizarre one.
Boy, this came out of nowhere.
So Charlie Strong, the head coach of the Texas Longhorns, of course, used to be at Louisville. That's where he came from before he landed the job at Texas. He's there for 4 seasons, 2012 through 2013. 2010 through 2013, rather. And now he has been named, he's been subpoenaed in a court in Kentucky in a divorce case. And if that sounds weird, it's because it is.
Yeah.
He has been named in the divorce case of what appears to be a very wealthy benefactor of the Louisville program, a booster. Mm-hmm. Is getting divorced. His name's Jonathan Blue. He's getting divorced, and he has subpoenaed Charlie Strong, saying that Charlie Strong would, this is reading from Sports Illustrated's Michael McCann here, possesses knowledge that would reveal that Tracy Blue, his soon-to-be ex-wife, acted in ways, quote, inconsistent with being a role model and responsible caretaker, end quote, for their children. And then they're saying that he wants them to turn over cell phone, travel records. Essentially, the implication here, because I texted you on Saturday, I think. And I said, I don't really get what they're getting here. And that's because the actual legal proceeding, there's nothing damning about it.
No.
From Charlie Strong. They just want him to come and testify. So if you read it just from a very blank perspective and just go, okay, this is what it says, there's not a whole lot there.
Right.
But it's when you dive into what this is implying that it gets potentially very hairy.
Right.
For Charlie Strong. Did he receive improper benefits?
Yes.
At Louisville.
You definitely wonder if that's part of it.
And so obviously now I'm a lot more laissez-faire with, I think the NCAA is ridiculous and all that fun stuff. But the rules are the rules.
Yes.
And this could have major implications if he is found to have received improper benefits. It could affect his current employment status. It could affect his current Texas's current eligibility status.
Sure.
There's a lot of different tentacles here. Basically, this seems like the analogy I come up with is an iceberg. That they say that the iceberg is you only see 10% of it. And right now we're only seeing 10% of it. And that is potentially, it could just go away. And it could just be, this could be a big nothing burger of a story. There could be really just not a whole lot. Or this has the possibility of turning into a big, big, big deal. And if it turns into a big deal, Texas is in trouble. And Charlie Strong in particular is in trouble. They could, reading this from Michael McCann, who's kind of their legal expert at Sports Illustrated, there are many ways that Texas could simply void his contract.
Yep.
And say, you know what, we're done, and we don't have to pay you. Obviously, that's a big factor. But there's a lot of different tentacles to this that right now, as a story by itself, it's not a big deal.
No.
But it's the kind of thing that down the road, we could be talking about 8 months from now as a very big deal.
Yeah, and I think my point to you was, for all the struggle Strong has had on the field the last 2 years, his defenders have completely been able to lean on, look at his character, he's doing this the right way. And that's what we want. If this pokes any holes in that, it's the last thing he needs in the most critical year of his job at Texas.
Yeah, he's always been able to be the squeaky clean guy.
Right.
And the best defense that he has right now is, I'm running Texas the right way.
Yes, undoubtedly.
I have the character. I have the, I am the guy who does everything the right way by the book. You can trust me. Yes, the wins aren't there right now, but we're getting there. And when we get there, it's going to be something you can really, truly be proud of.
Yes.
If this starts to muddy that perception, then all of a sudden Charlie Strong standing at Texas becomes a lot less desirable to a lot of important people.
Yeah, I mean, I think his critics are going to come hard at this if anything comes out that's remotely compromising.
So that's we will keep you updated on all of those types of things. There's a great story. I'll tweet it out here from Michael McCann, the legal expert for Sports Illustrated, who can kind of break down what all this means, because it is kind of in the weeds.
All right.
Second down here. Hey, are there enough football teams in Texas?
Can never be enough football teams in Texas.
That's a good question.
It is a good question, but the answer is obvious.
The answer is no. We always need more football teams. So, when it came out on, I guess this was Friday after the show, that University of Texas Rio Grande Valley is going to launch a football feasibility study. This is the first step towards launching football. This is what UTSA did when they launched football. They are going to launch these things. It's the first step in building a football program.
Yes.
Now, you may be asking yourself, hey, Greg. Actually, that wouldn't be asking yourself.
Hey, Max.
Hey, Max.
There we go.
Hey, self. Do I know where Texas Rio Grande Valley is? And the answer might be no, because it hasn't existed for long.
Oh.
Okay. So it's a state university. It was founded basically by merging University of Texas Brownsville and University of Texas Pan American. It's located in Brownsville.
So Pan American no longer exists.
So it is.
Okay.
It only started in full operation in 2015. It was founded in 2013.
Okay.
Only started full operation in 2015.
Based in
Brownsville.
Okay.
Brownsville.
All right.
And so they are going to look into whether or not they could or should play football.
Sure.
They
chaired by
that's
Mr. Mac Brown.
That's the other interesting thing here, is the guy who is kind of at the head of this is Mac Brown. You may remember him from his days at the University of Texas Austin.
You think back far enough?
It's interesting. It's an interesting kind of snapshot into what makes colleges relevant. Isn't this funny? And I've long thought it's funny, a bit of the tail wagging the dog here, that in order to be this big, known, relevant university, a lot of it comes back to athletics. That's how most people know universities. That's the only reason that Duke is so well known is because of their basketball program. I don't think that's really going out there on a limb.
Yeah.
That's why they're so well known. The only reason that these smaller colleges, the only reason that you know about that a Virginia Commonwealth University exists is because of what they did at the NCAA tournament, right? Yeah. The only reason we know down here in Texas that Boise State exists is because they ran the Statue of Liberty play against Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl. So here's UTRGV looking to become, figuring out if they want to have a football program. And you know what? Hop on board, guys. I'm good with any football.
I'm good
in
with
the state
it.
of Texas.
I think I'm curious to see what the committee brings back.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a situation where they see themselves as an FBS team out of the gate?
Yeah.
Or are we going to, are they going to be...
There's a lot of different ways you can go.
Right.
Because if you think about, for example, Texas State. Texas State has had football for a long time, but then they just recently decided to go and make the leap to FBS. Another example, on the other side of it, was UTSA. UTSA basically existed as an independent for 2 years before going in and joining big time, big boy football. They went straight into FBS.
Yeah.
So who, the question is who's going to, which way they're going to go if it even works for them. They may come back and say, you know what, it's not feasible or it's not right for us. I'll tell you that the people who are rooting hardest for this are folks in the Valley.
Yeah.
Especially athletes down in the Valley.
Yeah.
Because that gives them another local place to go play football. Because
I'd love it.
We always hear about how the Valley is under-recruited.
Yes.
Unless you're a guy like Trevor Spates who's going off to Stanford.
Right.
Then you don't get as much attention as you do in Houston or Dallas or Austin or Lubbock or somewhere like that. Mm-hmm. This would be a great opportunity for them. But they have to make sure the math works out. So, And third down, we'll zoom through a couple of coaching changes in the high school ranks. Victoria West has hired a coach. Courtney Boyce has been promoted from offensive coordinator to head coach. Galena Park North Shore, our friend John Kay, looks like they're losing their offensive coordinator. Looks like Troy Rogers is going to be the head coach at Lampasas, the Badgers. Badger. Sean Bell, the head coach at Magnolia West, is moving to the Central Texas area. He's going to Round Rock Cedar Ridge. That is happening post-haste. And speaking of Central Texas, Channon Hall, the head coach of Killeen Shoemaker, is heading north to the DFW Metroplex. He's going to take over for Mansfield Summit. So a lot of different coaching changes moving about. We'll try to keep you updated on them on Twitter at DCTF. Speaking of which, we are DCTF Live. We are here every weekday at noon on TexasFootball.com. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, Instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at TexasFootball.com. I'm going to tease something and not say anything about it. We could have.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We could have a very, very, very exciting announcement soon.
Tied, I think we can safely say, tied to South by Southwest.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think
Stay
that's
tuned.
safe.
Stay tuned to DCTF Live. We may be heading to Austin to hang out with all the hipsters.
My old stomping grounds.
That is, and I can tell, honestly. Like think about where you've lived.
Yeah.
You've lived in Austin,
Brooklyn.
in Brooklyn.
Yeah. And now Arlington.
And now Arlington.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same.
If there's a trio of cities there,
I know.
Austin, Brooklyn, Arlington.
I know.
Didn't you live in Connecticut for a little bit too?
Connecticut for a while.
Connecticut, man,
for a while,
you
just
are-
outside the city. Yeah.
You have got to get whiter. There's just no way. Like at this point, you're so white, you're transparent.
You're forgetting Kansas City too.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. I know it's bad.
So, every Monday on TexasFootball.com, every Monday in the offseason,
Every Monday at 1 p.m.
1 p.m., we post Matchup Monday.
Woo!
All-time Matchup Monday, where we take two of the all-time great Texas high school football teams and say, what would happen if they played? Which is interesting. Last week we did what? It was 08 Lake Travis.
No.
I got that back.
96 Westlake.
96 Westlake, that's right. 96
2000
Westlake
Midland Lee.
and 2000 Midland Lee. Cedric Benson against Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
Here is one. This week's one is we're going back farther, going back a couple decades earlier, which makes everything a little dicier to figure out. But beyond that, we're going with, I think, whereas last time we did two teams with super mega stars, right? Cedric Benson, one of the all-time great Texas high school football players. Drew Brees, an NFL MVP. He won the MVP once, right? Got to be,
Yes,
right?
probably. I don't know. Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl champion.
Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, and an elite Texas high school football quarterback, like two guys like going at it, right? That's what it had.
Right.
Here, with this week's
Right.
matchup, we have one with arguably the brightest star in Texas history
Yes.
and one that's just awesome.
Yes.
We're talking, of course, about the 1970 Austin Reagan Bulldogs taking on the 1973
Raiders. Austin Raiders. Reagan Raiders.
Why do I keep saying Bulldogs?
I don't know. There's a lot of Bulldogs in the state, though.
What Austin buoys the Bulldogs?
Buoys the Bulldogs. Yeah.
I keep saying that. I don't know why.
It's all right.
The 1970 Austin Reagan Raiders taking on
the Raiders.
1973 John Tyler. I screwed up Reagan, so I might as well screw up
We
John
should
Tyler.
say before
John
we go,
Tyler Conquistadors. No, it's
No.
the John Tyler. John Tyler Lions.
We should say before we get into this one that the fan vote was overwhelmingly Midland Lee over Austin Westlake.
Yeah.
So much so that I'm suspicious that there might have been an algorithm ticked in there.
Yes.
Yes.
There was a lot of votes.
Yes.
So, 1970 Austin Reagan Raiders against the 1973 John Tyler Lions. We'll start with Reagan, 1970. This is one of those high school football dynasties that you forget about. Okay?
Yeah,
because
it's kind of criminal.
Because between about 1965 and about 1971, you could make the argument that Austin Reagan was the best football program in the state.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the best football programs in the nation.
Twice national champions, declared national champions. Now, we can go back and forth about the validity of such declarations.
It's a little
But
crazy, but
the fact that Austin Reagan at one point was on a national level, and I mean now we don't even think about him.
well, I don't even apparently know their mascot.
Yeah.
67 through 70, they go 51-3.
Yes.
Okay, they won three state titles there, 67, 68, and 70. Coach Travis Raven was just a mastermind.
He was great. He was a great coach at everything. He won a state championship in baseball, too.
Yes. And the way that they worked was that they didn't have a superstar, but their offensive line play was great. They had this grinding running game, and then their defense just destroyed you. Their defense just crushed you. They were the ultimate kind of faceless team.
Yep.
That they didn't have this guy that you go, we got to stop that guy. You got to go, we got to stop all that.
Right.
All that going on.
Everything going on.
We got to figure out a way to stop it. The defense was elite, and it was the kind of thing that we don't see a whole lot anymore are these super duper elite defenses like we saw with Katy.
Right.
It's a very old. When we talk about old school, we're talking about this: grind you into dust running game, and a fantastic defense.
Yep.
For me, this is a fantastic example of the way that football used to be,
Right.
where you could have a school kind of in not an inner city, but in the city
Yes.
of Austin
Yes.
that could pull together this team and with a system and with a fantastic coach in Travis Raven could go out and just dominate people.
Yeah.
So Reagan, 1970, I mean, really you could pick 67, 68, 70. They're all built the same way, and they're
Right.
all awesome. 51-3 over 4 years is pretty outrageous.
Pretty good.
So they're the faceless team, right? They're the team
Right.
that doesn't have this superstar, but they're just awesome at everything. Here, on the other side of it, is quite possibly the most polar opposite of that. That you have 1973 John Tyler. In fact, this team was voted the best team of the quarter century from 1960 to 1985 by DCTF.
Yeah.
We're quite high on this team.
Yes.
And one of the big reasons, I'm not going to say the only reason,
Not the only
but
reason.
there's a headline here. With
Yeah.
Austin Reagan, there's not a headline, right?
No.
It's like just great team.
Yep.
With John Tyler, there's a headline. And the headline is the Tyler Rose.
Yeah.
It's Earl Campbell. This is Earl Campbell's team from back in 1973. And he was ridiculous. He was, before he was a superstar for the Oilers, okay?
Yeah.
Before he was a superstar for Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Before all that, he was the most unstoppable force in Texas high school football. Out there in Tyler, just dominating people. Go on YouTube. Go on YouTube and look up Earl Campbell High School, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Go look it up. Go look up Earl Campbell, John Tyler. you will see a man among boys. And he's playing some great teams out there in East Texas and in the DFW Metroplex before they get to title games. It was ridiculous how good they were.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just him, and I want to make sure that we give a lot of credit to a lot of other guys. The quarterback, Larry Hartsfield, did an outstanding job. It's nice to be able to turn and hand it off to that, but that can't be your one thing.
Yeah, no, that'll be pretty nice.
Yeah, and they beat this Austin Reagan team in 1973 at the Astrodome for a title. Now, the other star on this team would be, there are other brothers, other Campbell brothers. Steve and Tim were there. Part of the big defense. Gary Don Johnson was on this defense. The defense was very good. The defense was very good as well, but that's all going to get lost because everyone's going to talk about Cujo. Everyone's going to talk about the Tyler Rose. Going to talk about Earl Campbell. And for good reason, right? I mean, he's one of the all-time great Texas high school football players. He was legendary in high school.
Yep.
And then was legendary at Texas, and then was legendary in the pros. I mean, this is a guy who is Texas.
Yes.
And so when you go in this matchup with 1973 John Tyler against 1970 Austin Reagan, you're having to choose. Are you going with kind of the well-oiled machine, the thing that doesn't beat itself, that just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and there's so many different ways it can beat you in the 1970 Austin Reagan team? Or do you go with the team with maybe the greatest player in Texas high school football history, maybe the face of football in the Lone Star State, in Earl Campbell, not to mention pretty good supporting cast? So where do you go with that one? I'll let you answer first, Max. Do you want?
You think so, huh?
Or do you want me to answer first?
I'll answer. Okay, so my thinking in this was something that was kind of sympathetic, I guess, to Reagan. What you were mentioning earlier and how we talk about this. This is one of the most undervalued dynasties in state history. You can't possibly imagine what it took to be that dominant in that stretch. Defense wins championships. I'm going with the underdog on defense.
Interesting.
It's not the best player on the field. It's the best team on the field. And even though I think John Tyler that year was a great team, and I know there will be plenty of people that say that John Tyler team might be one of the greatest teams ever, both of these teams are. And I'm going to be the odd man out, I think. I'm probably going to go with Austin Reagan.
Okay. Mike Craven, our contributor, made sure to he picked John Tyler.
Yes.
And as much as I hate to agree with Mike, I got to agree with Mike. I got to go John Tyler. Because for me, as great as this Austin Reagan team, and I hope I've done a good enough job getting them over, making sure you guys know how good they are.
How awesome they were.
Yeah. In order to pick Austin Reagan to win this matchup, you would have to pick against Earl Campbell.
Right.
And I am simply not prepared to do that.
And I don't think anyone can fault you for that.
I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to pick against Earl Campbell. I'm not. He is Texas personified.
Yes.
He is football in Texas personified.
Sure.
He was people who know him from University of Texas and the Oilers, you got a good picture of him. Go watch him in high school.
Yeah.
It was not close. He was the best player on the field every time he took the field.
Yeah.
So for me, I just cannot. I don't think I can pick against. I just don't think I can pick against him. And I think for me, that's where it comes down to. And I know that you're kind of picking the one, the team with the headline, and maybe that's too easy. Maybe you're saying, oh, that's the easy way.
I think this is one of those times where it's not too easy. I think it makes sense.
I'm just picking them. Yeah. I've got to. So
I don't blame you.
So what do you think? Vote on our poll on Twitter at DCTF. You can also vote on TexasFootball.com. Stories going up momentarily. Tomorrow we're going to be talking recruiting with our recruiting guru, James Lott will be joining us, breaking down some of the top 2017 prospects in the state. Going to be talking about a whole lot of other things here on TexasFootball.com. We're here every weekday at noon. In fact, we're here all week, which is kind of rare. Actually, when I think about it,
the way things have gone, the way all the vacations you and I have
been out of town, you've been out of town. But the thing is, we've got to get these vacations out of the way because when summer magazine season starts, which starts in like 10 minutes, we don't really do anything else besides work on the magazine. No. So that's kind of it. By the way, if you're a head coach in Texas, a Texas high school football head coach, and you're watching, check your mailbox here pretty soon because the questionnaire is on its way.
Time.
So that's going to do it for us for today. Thank you for tuning in, spending part of your day with us. Follow us on Twitter at DCTF. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Dave Campbell's. Follow us on Instagram, instagram.com/Dave Campbell's. And, of course, see us at texasfootball.com. Vince Young, please come get your Player of the Year trophy. And we will see you tomorrow on DCTF Live.